Okay, this is gonna be what will probably upset a lot of people. A takedown about this J Dyer guy. Now, I didn't know who J Dyer was, but quite a few of you kept asking me, oh, you should talk to J Dyer, you should have a conversation with J Dyer, you should see if you can debate J Dyer. And, frankly, apparently he was this great Orthodox theologian or something on the internet. And I have honestly no interest in it, because whatever, you're Orthodox, do your thing. I'm gonna do my thing. But I thought, whatever. Let me try. Maybe I could be wrong. Maybe there's something interesting there. So I clicked on one of his videos. Literally after about 5 minutes, I came to the conclusion this guy's fucking retarded. Intellectually, he's not even a Rogan tall. Okay, he's like 1/10 of a Rogan tall intellectually. But I thought, why are people even listening? It's like, I think one of the commenters on one of my videos mentioned that Vox said, oh, these guys are like, D&D lawyers. They like try and argue the rule of whether you're a cleric, and it's completely got nothing to do with dealing in the real world. And I'd have to say that's a generous description. So, but then I forced myself to watch, I think it's about 20 minutes or so, of one of his videos, which I'll put the link to in the notes. But the video is called Sedevac Autism, like a play on words on sedevacantism. Sedevac Autism Refuted, Trailer Park Cults and Popes, in inverted commas. And I can now conclusively say that J Dyer is a liar and an Omega idiot. So, but I'll get to the details, but just in general, because I've actually made some notes. And keep in mind, I listened to this 20-minute video while I was busy doing some other stuff on spreadsheets and half listening to a guy that was talking to me. That's not to say that that's any excuse for me not having paid full attention. What I'm trying to say here is that I only required 1/10 of my brain to keep up with what he was saying, and it was still, like I said, intellectually, he's a pygmy. He's nothing. But so here's the big picture thing. The first 5 minutes of another video that I watched, I don't remember the name, I automatically came to a judgment that this guy is a nobody. Intellectually, he's got nothing. And a lot of people, this is what's going to happen as a result of this video. This guy's got something like 40,000 zombie followers. They're all going to get upset. They're all going to come here and they're going to commit gammatude suicide, gammacide. They're just going to try and put some crappy comment, and they'll just go straight to the giant mass graves of Kurgan gamma bodies, They will not be engaged with, they will just be banned. I then need to explain that all these gammicides that will happen, and all the morons that are going to freak out, and all the people are going to say, well, yeah, you didn't. I don't care, right? I don't care. Orthodoxy has a place in Russia. I don't even think it has a place in Greece anymore that much. Maybe in the future some of it might. But what you need to understand is that the conquering or reconquering or the rising of Christianity, if there's going to be such a thing, it's mostly going to be Catholic. And I'm going to get to that. There's going to be a whole other video on the strategy of what we're doing here. But this is just an exposition of this moron J Dyer. So, I'm going to refer to this video that I showed, this Sedevac Autism video, because the guy, he's just... Oh, but before I start, there's Owen Benjamin Clips is now a follower. So, well done. Awesome work that you do. I really enjoy your work. So, Owen Benjamin Clips, if you're planning to do any stuff with my videos, go for it, man. And, if you want to do a video on this one, go for it. And I don't care. If you're going to use the South Park guys, just make sure that the Kurgan guys is cool, So anyway, on to the Sedevac Autism video. First of all, I said, and I will repeat, J Dyer is a liar. He's an intentional liar. Okay, he's a conscious liar. He's also what I would just call a wrecked, an Omega who's trying to not be an Omega, I think. If you don't know what an omega is, that's Vox's social sexual hierarchy thing. Anyway, in the first minute of his video, he contradicts himself. Because he says, you know, I tried to debate the Novus Ordo Watch guy, and they blocked me. They blocked me. You know, like trying to make some controversy as though what he's saying is like, you know, he's so important and it's so truthful that the Novus Ordo guys just have to block me. Says, but, you know, then other people wanted to debate me, but I don't deal with people that I don't like, so I won't have it. I won't engage them, you know. I'll engage with somebody like Immaculate Jones or, you know. So in the first 50 seconds, he's basically accused somebody of doing something that he himself does. And to be clear, I'm not going to debate J Dyer. There's a very simple reason for this. One, he's got absolutely nothing to say that interests me at all. All of his spurgy nonsense, his 3 hours videos on some pointed, useless detail of theology that only he cares about, and possibly the other 40,000 guys, although I think 39,999 of them don't actually understand what he's saying. They just think it's very deep. Secondly, there would be absolutely no benefit to it because it achieves nothing. He's an omega. He's got a monomania about trying to find perfection, which we'll get into when we get into the details. But and you know, he's a liar. He's dishonest. So I don't find any need or reason to have any kind of conversation with people that I can demonstrate are knowing liars, you know. So let's get a bit more, move more into slightly more generic terms. So in this video, he lies outrageously about sedevacantism because, and he does this very sneakily sort of the way and says, you know, sedevacantism, and then he throws it in, sedeprivationism. Now, words are important, okay? I understand that for most people, the difference between sedevacantism and sedeprivationism is not even understood because they don't know the words. They think it's magic words. It's not. It's Latin. Sede vacante means empty chair. Sede privation means the chair cannot be filled because there's an impostor sitting in it. And it's a more accurate term. The see of Peter, the chair of Peter, the position of Pope in the Vatican is not empty. It's filled with an impostor, and it has been filled with impostors since 1958. That's it. So sedeprivationism is more correct. It's a correct term. But they get generally lumped in because people are too stupid, lazy, and, you know, don't read. So they just say, oh, well, you're all sedevacantists. No, we're not sedevacantists, we're sedeprivationists. It's important. It's an important distinction. And now he lumps it all together and says that, oh, these guys, he says a number of things which we'll get to. But first I wanted to more generically address who is J Dyer. J Dyer is an omega gamma moron. He himself in this video admits that, and he tries to lump it in, he takes these complete frauds, these freaks that said, oh, because Vatican II is heretic, I declare myself the new Pope. You know, and absolute nonsense. I agree that those guys are trailer park cults, you know, but that's not what sedevacantism, in inverted commas, is, and certainly it's not what sedeprivationism is. You know, the thing is, sedeprivationism was essentially came about because of Vatican II, and the, let's say, most eminent exponent of the theology that describes sedeprivation is I've finally written his name down before the video, was a Benedictine monk whose name is Michel Louis Gerard de Lauriers. Michel Louis Gerard de Lauriers. Obviously French with a name like that, and he was a Benedictine monk who, when Vatican II came out, initially was with SSPX, which is the guys who basically sort of said, yeah, no, Vatican II is heretical, but then they still try to sort of say, but the popes are still valid. Well, you can't say both. You know, it's goes against canon law. You can't. Either you agree that Vatican II is legitimate, which obviously isn't, or if Vatican II is heretic, then anybody, any cleric of any rank that doesn't outright reject Vatican II is a heretic and officially, and without any pronunciation by anybody, vacates their office, which is why none of the clerics of the Novus Ordo Church are valid ordained clerics of the Catholic Church. They're not. So, but J Dyer himself says, you know, the thing is, and apparently he was a Catholic before Catholic, and but you know, I read, and this, he says this, I read all the papal encyclicals, you know, and I read these things for like, you might have said this in another video, I don't know if it's in this video, but anyway, and I read all these papal encyclicals, and but you know, papal infallibility is not right because there's errors and there's contradictions, and then you try and find this perfection, and this is where you understand that J Dyer is retarded. Because he says he was looking for this perfect system. Now, somebody who looks for a perfect system is obviously intellectually, challenged, to put it politically correct. There is no perfect system. There is no perfect human being, and we live under the domain of Satan. So, where do you think you'll find perfection? You know, besides, again, if you're a Christian, read your Bible now and then. There's only one perfect guy. That was Jesus, right? Everybody else, not perfect. You can argue about the Immaculate Conception, whatever, it doesn't matter. Point is, you are not perfect, and no one you know is perfect, and no one you will ever know is ever going to be perfect, all right? So, kind of pointless to sit there and spurg out about, but I want perfection. You're a motor. And then he goes on and he says, and you know, because when you try and look at this for this perfection, then you know you alienate all your friends because you say, no, this has to be this way, and then you don't have any friends, then your friends leave you, and then it's very lonely, you know, and you can see, you know, like when Vox says that, like when Google said don't be evil, it wasn't like it was a statement to themselves, you know. It was like a psychotic guy with a knife going, don't be evil, don't be evil, don't be evil. He's trying not to kill people at random, you know. And you can see J Dyer, same thing. It's like, don't be lonely, don't be a spurg, don't be a creepy little spurg omega freak, don't be a little spurg creep, you know. It's that's what he's doing. And so he spent all this time mentally masturbating himself over papal encyclicals because he is an Omega, probably autistic, binary thinker who cannot and does not understand the concept of 3D thinking, which I've mentioned. It's one of my videos. 2D thinking versus 3D thinking. It's the binary thinking versus paradoxical thinking. If you are a binary thinker, if you can only think in 2 dimensions, black and white, up and down, left or right, that's it. That's your limitation. You're gonna make a terrible Christian. You probably can't really be a proper Christian because you're too stupid. You're literally talking yourself out of the glory of God. You're the kind of guy that thinks, well, the earth has to be flat because, you know, I can't conceive of anything bigger than an earth, like a solar system, never mind a galaxy or a galactic cluster or a globular supercluster of galaxies. No, I'm not. My brain just explodes. So I'm gonna say it's flat because that's what I can see. And no, you're a moron, right? Binary thinking is a limitation. If you're a binary thinker, you're intellectually limited, all right? You can only go so far. You've got like a 50cc engine, and that's it. That's it. You've got a 50cc engine. You're never going to be able to drag race. You're never going to be able to keep up with people like me. You're never going to be able to understand what people like me are even saying. All right? It's just going to freak you out and get you all scared. So that's who he is. He's essentially exposed himself. And then he goes on about this mental masturbation over the papal encyclicals and without understanding the bigger picture, because he gets hung up on papal infallibility. Now, I'm going to research it a bit deeper, but as far as I understand it, papal infallibility only came about as a result of the last legitimate pope, who no one agreed with on this particular topic. So that's one concept of papal infallibility. It was as a result of Vatican I. I've downloaded documents. I haven't completely read through all of them yet. I will, just to figure out what happened. But my understanding of it from Julius Norris's book about the popes, but I'm going to dig into it deeper, is that papal infallibility only came about as a result of Pius XII, who was the last legitimate pope. And that guy knew what was coming. It was clear to him that Christianity was under attack, that his church was infiltrated. He didn't trust anybody, so he was trying to put up a big wall saying, look, what I'm saying is right and shut the fuck up. But that's not how it ever worked in the history of the church, and it was a political maneuver, which again, now this is where we enter into 3D thinking, and you could do a whole video on this, right? So I'm just going to give you a couple of sentences on it, expand on it in your own way, right? I may talk about this again, but the whole concept of the Catholic Church, why it was so successful is because it dealt with the world as well. You know, it's a spiritual entity with a supernatural purpose and spiritual purpose, but it doesn't ignore the real world. It doesn't ignore the fact that we live in the world. You know, it's live in the world, don't be of it. And that's pretty much what the Catholic Church has always done. So yeah, there's all sorts of political intrigue, there's power moves, there's corrupt clerics. This is, you know, this is all normal, par for the course. But overall, it still goes into the generally right direction. And there's going to be a bunch of spurgs now that are going to say, no, but in the year 1017 or 812, some pope said that his word was infallible, and therefore, yeah, you morons, there's all sorts of controversy that happened in the church all this time, and so what? It didn't make any difference. We had popes that were completely homosexual, we had popes that had orgies, we had popes that were literally pirates, we had popes that just spent a huge amount of money just on throwing parties. That's irrelevant. The Pope is just a figurehead, which leads me to another point. These are the generic points. I'm getting to the details, don't worry. One of the other idiocies that J Dyer believes is like, well, if you've got a pyramidal structure where there's the Pope at the top and then the Pope turns out to be fake or mistaken or wrong, well, then the whole structure collapses. No, you idiot. There's been 40 fake popes before 1958, and the Catholic Church just marched on. What's been happening has been a gradual corrosion of Christianity, and a lot of that has to do with Protestantism. It's taken 500 years. But the Protestants were like all for contraception, and then that leads to divorce, and divorce leads to abortion, and so on, and all that other stuff. The Catholic Church, even the Novus Ordo Church, which is essentially a satanic takeover of the original church, hasn't got the power yet to actually say contraception is okay. Or even, they're pushing on the divorce, and they're pushing on the female deacons in the Amazon jungle somewhere. That's the next step. That's what they're going to do. But they still can't say that abortion is okay or that contraception is okay. They're trying to test the waters with that, and it's not flying. So even though what used to be the Catholic Church, for the most part, has been absolutely invaded and taken over by satanistic scum, Bergoglio is the king of the pedophile protectors and child molesters and child traffickers, and all these guys still don't have enough power to actually overturn the beliefs of the Catholic Church. Because there's millions and millions of cradle Catholics and churchianish Catholics and badly educated Catholics that don't know what happened in their church. And those guys, when they figure it out, when they get the word, they will all come marching in, and we're going to go back to the Crusades. But anyway, back to J Dyer. So, the lies. Lie number one that J Dyer says, sedeprivativism doesn't last. And he references this crazy con man, that, by the way, he says 10 years ago he looked into, and 10 years ago he for a while he thought they had the answer, or that he had the answer, and he comes to the conclusion that all these like fake popes and these crazy, like I'm the new pope guys, were mentally unbalanced. He says, these guys ultimately are mentally unbalanced, which is absolutely true. And he goes on to add, and I think probably 10 years ago I was a bit mentally unbalanced, which is absolutely true. And he's now demonstrated this in two different ways, by discussing the Omega creepy weirdo, hey, I need it all to be 100% this way. And the reality is that sedeprivativism essentially happened as a result of Vatican II, and as soon as Vatican II was out, there was discussion in it. You must also understand that one of the virtues of the church is to not rush to judgment, to sort of take your time to figure stuff out. So it does take a couple of years, but for example, the Mater Boni Concilii, which is where I was baptized, that was officially started in 1985, but the people that were in that were straight away, they split off from the Vatican II stuff, and the Society of Saint Pius the 10th is the SSPX. That's what originally the Society of Saint Pius the 10th was splitting away because of Vatican II. But then they kind of said, oh yeah, but we're still accepting the popes as somewhat valid. And at that point, basically, this Benedictine friar, Michel Louis Gerard de Loriens, he split away from them, and he created the thesis that's come to be known as the thesis of Cassicicum, because he wrote, I don't know how to pronounce it, it's spelled Cassiciacum, the Cassicicum thesis, because it was published in some French publications in French, and I've got the originals because my priest sent them to me, and one of these days I'll print them all out because it's like 300 pages. It was in different volumes and whatever. And my idea is to see if I can get all the originals and reproduce it in a printable form. But this guy knew this right away, and he was essentially, I think, excommunicated by Rome because he was telling the truth. And Rome was now in the hands of the Satanists. He then became a bishop as a result of another bishop that was not excommunicated, that was a valid bishop, who made, so he became a bishop, and then as a result of him becoming, and the reason for this was to continue to have bishops. As a result of this, Gerard de Loriens consecrated another 3 bishops: Gunther Storck, Robert McKenna, not to be confused with the pedophile McKenna, and Franco Munari. Now, there's also Donald Sanborn, who is very active on our in the Mater Boni Concilii. But the Mater Boni Concilii is an association of laymen, priests, and bishops that have split away from, not split away, have continued the Catholic Church when it got split by the Vatican II stuff, and nothing's changed. You don't need a pope to be Catholic, right? It's not required. Pope is a worldly title to better organize the organization of the church. But that's 2D warfare. That's what used to happen in 2D warfare. We're now in a 4D warfare world. We don't need the pope. What you need to do is create little Catholic communities, and I discussed that in my last videos. But it's not just the Mater Boni Concilii. There are other living churches, which comes to the second lie. The second lie of J Dyer says, oh, sedevacantism doesn't last. In 5 years, none of these guys will be around, and none of them have lasted more than 5 years. Absolute rubbish. Mater Boni Concilii has been there since 1985. The people who created Mater Boni Concilii were there from the beginning. There has been no falling away. And he says, they don't have any living churches. Well, that's again another lie. There's a physical structure, living church in Belgium. There's, I believe, some in Turin. I have been to Mass near Venice. When I first came across these guys, I started to follow them and so on. There are plenty of communities throughout Europe, and at one point there was a live map of all the places where they were giving Latin masses. I don't know if that's still live. The last time I went, the site didn't seem to be working properly. But give us time, and if any of you are like IT guys that want to do that stuff, get involved. Start doing it. Do your own map. Don't ask me for permission. Go out there and get in touch with the Mater Boni Concilii or sodalitium.biz. Get in touch with them. Get in touch with the change of the Saint Gertrude, the Church of Saint Gertrude, which is sgg.com. They're in America. They do the Latin Mass. One of their priests is the guy that wrote, again, a very detailed thesis on Canon 188.4. And if you want to read that thesis, go to the website, canon188.com, go in the About page, and in there, one of the links in that About page is the thesis on Canon 188.4, so you can educate yourself. Now, SSPX, which are the guys who split, was when Vatican II came out, SSPX was like, nah, we don't agree with this stuff. SSPX removed Michel Gerard de Loriens from the SSPX in 1977. So, this stuff has been going on. So keep in mind, Vatican II ended in 65. So from 65 to 77, it's not that long. It's like 7 years. And even the SSPX guys by then were like too, corrupt to handle the truth. But sedeprivationism has been there from the beginning, and it's there now, and it's only getting bigger. The churches keeps growing, the sizes keep growing. One of the guys from the comments, he's going to come on Sunday Mass on the 25th. He's going to make it there. He's going to be a bit late because of work and whatever, but he's going to make it there. So that's the thing. There is a living church. It keeps expanding. It keeps growing. We're creating little communities. So again, J Dyer is a liar. Then he goes on, next lie. He goes on to, plus he dismisses all of the facts of sedeprivationism, the stuff I just mentioned of Canon 1:8.4. He just says, it's a crazy mess and there is no clear theological authority. No. Your spurgy autistic need for a leader to follow, a spotless leader to follow, is your problem, Jay. Your problem. Not mine, not anybody else's. It's not a crazy mess. The theological reasoning is absolutely clear. Go and read the Chesecaum theory, or go to the Mater Boni Concili. It's very clear. Go read the Canon 188.com, the about page. The links are there. The theology is ironclad. All right, it's a legalistic argument based on the canons of the Catholic Church. It's a spiritually sound argument. It's a theologically sound argument. It's a logically sound argument. It's a legally sound argument. There is no way out. There has been zero refutation of the fact that Canon 188.4 clearly identifies all the Novus Orchians as Novus Orchians and nothing to do with Catholics, because they have, even if they had been validly ordained, which probably most of them have not, but even if they had been, they have vacated their office due to their heresy. End of. There is no getting around that. It's in black and white. So it's very clear. So this J Dyer guy dismisses the whole sedeprivationist thing without addressing a single point. What? So it's a crazy mess because J Dyer says it's a crazy mess? No. J Dyer is a crazy mess. Sedeprivationism is just fine. Then he goes on to try and say that sedeprivationism is all about extreme purity and it's the sin of Donatism. For those of you that don't know, Donatism was a heresy where if you thought that the priest was not perfect, then his giving of the Mass was considered invalid. That's rubbish because, again, no one is perfect. So your priest is not perfect. Now, having said that, I completely disagree with the Anne Barnhart position that, even if you know that your priest of the Novus Ordo Church is a pedophile, his Mass is still valid. No, his Mass is not valid. Not necessarily because he's a pedophile, although I have very strong arguments to say that would be the case as well, but because he is not validly ordained. Being Novus Orcos means you are not Catholic. Let's get that clear. Novus Orco, Satan. Catholic, Jesus Christ. Right? Let's be clear. Novus Orco, Satan, the left-hand path. Catholic, Jesus Christ. Right? They're two different things. Just because the Novus Orchians took over all the buildings and all the money and all that stuff that the Catholics used to have doesn't change anything. Catholics are Catholics, Novus Orchians are Novus Orchians. It's true that the Novus Orchians try and pretend to be Catholic, but that's what their game is. The Prince of Lies, rings a bell, duh. You think he's going to tell you the truth? It's a Prince of Lies that's running this show, right? And Bergoglio's his little butt puppet, so... No, sedeprivationism has got nothing to do with Donatism. We don't assume that our priests are perfect or any such thing. We differentiate between actual clerics validly ordained of the Catholic Church and people who are not. It's very simple. It's not difficult to understand, Jay. Probably difficult for you while you get lost mentally masturbating over some papal encyclical from the 900 or whatever. but it's not difficult for the rest of us who can read and write. Lie number 5, he repeats that it has no duration. I have demonstrated that that's a lie, and you don't have to take my word for it. Go to the sodalitium.biz. Just educate yourself on sede-privationism, and you'll see it's been there pretty much since Vatican II came out. Then he again, he may, I'll come back to that one because it's a bit more detailed, but his other lie, that if you have a structure with the Pope, once the Pope is proven to be false or wrong or whatever, the whole structure collapses. No, Jay, that's just for autistic people like yourself who can't handle a little bit of chaos, a little bit of unknown, a little bit of what is also known as real life to the rest of us. The Pope can drop dead, he can be an anti-Pope, he can be a complete heretic apostate, and he can be, as is the case now, a servant of Satan. It doesn't matter. Okay? The Catholic Church is the Catholic Church. Doesn't matter. We've had fake popes before, plenty of them. It's true that this is the longest stretch of fake popes we had in any one time. That's a fact. But so what? You know, there was all sorts of other situations that the church has come through and survived. And this will just be another one of them. Because the church does not depend on the Pope or any man for its existence. It is supernaturally protected by Jesus Christ. And according to Catholic tradition, Mary, his mother, is essentially holding back Jesus' hand from smiting and punishing all the evil that's going on in his church. But eventually she'll get fed up of it and go, okay, son, and let him loose. And that's when the second coming comes. Anyway, then he goes on to, he's hung up on papal infallibility because being autistic, a binary thinker, and an Omega, you know, he doesn't have a perfect leader to follow, he doesn't know what to do. So he could manage to evolve himself to handle just enough imperfection to deal, you know, to be orthodox, which we'll come to, but supposedly orthodox. But anyway, papal infallibility is a political tool, and who doesn't understand that? Guess what? You're a tool. You know, papal infallibility, again, I will go into the details a bit more. I need to research the details a bit more, but my understanding is papal infallibility essentially officially only got mentioned by the last Pope because he was in a bit of a panic and no one agreed with him. None of his cardinals essentially agreed with him or ratified it. So, you know, it was just him saying, listen to me and I'm right, kind of. And, you know, it's human. You understand why that happened. But anyway, and there's going to be all sorts of spurgs, and this brings me to the final and important point, that are going to go, but in this encyclical it says, and in this particular Pope he said, and this other Pope. Wake up. Wake up. Look at a map of which part of the world was Catholic in the year 33. Then look at a map of which part of the world was Catholic in the year 200, then in the year 300, then in the year 400, then in the year 500, 600, 700, then Islam came about. Then look at the spread of Christianity throughout the world. It is Catholic. It originated in Rome because that's where Peter went eventually. He was the bishop of another church, and then he went to Rome and he became the first, known as the first Pope of Rome. And he was martyred there, as was Paul. Paul, being a Roman citizen, got to have his head chopped off. Peter, not being a Roman citizen, got to get crucified, but he asked not to be crucified like his Lord was because he wasn't worthy. So he asked to be crucified upside down, which they did, and it lasted a couple of days because crucifixion suffocates you, but if you're upside down you can carry on breathing. So it took him a bit longer to die. So, and you look at a map of Christianity and you will see that that's exactly how it happened. All right. Now, I'm not interested in Orthodoxy for two reasons. I don't care, even if they were like right next door to Catholicism. That's great. But you know what? They're not going to change the world. They're not going to hold back the hordes. They will hold back the hordes maybe in Greece and Russia, and that's about it. And maybe some of the other ex-Soviet Union countries, you know. But who's fighting back? Hungary, Poland. Oh, what religion are they? Oh, they're Catholic, right? Guess what? There's over 1 billion Catholics because it is the true church. Most of them are completely deceived. That's true. But you know what? We don't need all of them to understand what really happened. If 10% of the nominally Catholic people actually return to Catholicism, 10%, right? You've got 1 billion. Remember how to do the power of maths? 1 billion is 1 followed by 9 zeros. Yeah? 10% of that means that you just knock off 1 zero. So that means that you've now got 100 million Catholics. 100 million actual Catholics. Not Novus Orchians, not fooled people. 10% of nominal Catholics understand what I'm talking about. You're going to have 100 million militant Christians. Because again, understand, the Orthodox are not militant. They stagnate. They sit in their little puddle and they stagnate. And if you're going to attack them, maybe they defend the gates for a bit. And usually what they do is they call their Catholic friends. They go, hey, can you come help us out? We've got a problem here. We can't deal with ourselves. That's what's happened. That's what the history of Christianity is. Read it up. And I'm reading that brilliant book, God's Battalions, I think it's called. Something like that, by Rodney Stark. It's brilliant. Read it. I'm not finished with it yet, but it's awesome. So we, Catholics, don't sit on our ass. I mean, there's like, I don't even have 1,000 followers. One of the guys has written to me about how he's going to convert. He's only going to Latin Mass. He's got the church in. He's an American. He's in America somewhere. He's going to drive a couple of hours to go to Latin Mass. And then he's going to try and figure out how to buy a church and get one of the priests to come to that church and create a community around his place. Maybe he succeeds, maybe he doesn't. But this is a guy that watched one of my videos, and a couple of weeks later, he's moving, he's doing stuff. And I've got several emails from him. So he's progressing, you know. That's one guy. Another guy, he's coming on Sunday. Another guy, he wants to catch up. He wants to, you know, have a talk. Get together in real life. Get together in the real world. It's 4th generation warfare. J Dyer isn't going to do a fucking thing. J Dyer is going to have 40,000 mental masturbators watching him going, oh yeah, simplicity of God. And what other, I mean, he's talking about such rarefied theological nonsense that has no effect on the world. None whatsoever. You're not going to have an army of J Dyer guys, you know, kick out the Muslims and create a city-state of Christians. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I'm one guy, and I've already got a plan to convert the whole of Venice. Now, I'm still only one guy, so might not work. Might not get there in my lifetime. The plan is good. And I've got a guy who's running for mayor, who's going to run for mayor. Maybe he doesn't get there. But he's my buddy, and we think very much the same. That's 2 people. If I get 300 in the same location that think the way I told you guys about the 300, man, we're going to convert city-states like wildfire. Catholicism is where it's at. Now, what people don't understand is like, oh, but the Catholic Church, people are leaving in droves. No, they're leaving the Novus Orco Church in droves, rightly so. And no, we are not Novus Orchians. There is a sleeping giant mass of uneducated, uncatholicized potential Catholics. They're slumbering. Guess what I'm at? I'm waking them up. And so all of you that are on side. That's your job. Remember, we're a church militant. We're behind enemy lines. You have to spread the light. Sometimes the best way to spread the light, like I put in my book Believe, is by setting fire to enemy encampments. That spreads a lot of light. So now, to finish off, J Dyer is an Omega Spergatron of 0 practical effect in the world. 0. I don't think he will achieve anything. And if you look at his videos, and I've tried to, start a few others, and he's got all these flashy stuff, and he talks with a mask, and he's just a clown. He's an autistic Omega clown of no effect. And whoever got roped into listening to his crap are probably people that just sit in their basement and go like, oh, and they mentally masturbate over some tiny irrelevant detail of some comment made by some guy. Who cares? Who cares? Pick up your sword and start walking to Jerusalem. That's a Catholic. That's a crusader. It wasn't the Orthodox who did that. It wasn't the Orthodox who won the fight at Lepanto. It wasn't the Orthodox who pushed back the Saracens at Malta. It's the Catholics. So, like one of the ladies, I can't remember, was Ethernosis, I think is her like screen name. Like she suggested, it's a pretty good T-shirt, I'm thinking maybe I'll talk to the guys from Crypto Fashion and see if they'll make me one. Catholic or get the fuck out. It's I don't know if they'll make it, but hey, costs nothing to ask, right? Maybe we have it like give me some suggestions. One of the immortals with a number or something, or immortals at the back and Catholic, or get GTFO on the front or something like that. Something just a little bit inspiring. I don't know. I wouldn't make any money out of it, but I'm happy to. I know the guys from Crypto Fashions. They're good guys. I'm happy for them too. If they can make T-shirts that you guys want, let them know. Let me know. Give me some suggestions. I'll pass it on. Okay, so that's it, and that's pretty much all I'm gonna say about J Dyer. There's somebody else that told me, what about this other guy, Steven? Somebody else who one of his books is like written about the power of vril as though it was history. Okay, the vril, the energy of vril, was a science fiction book written by an English lord that the Germans latched onto as though it was history, and it's nonsense. It's fucking nonsense. So please stop suggesting to me these people that are just complete morons to talk with or listen to. That no, they're idiots. E. Michael Jones, I don't know anything about E. Michael Jones. I saw a snippet of one of his interviews with Owen, and maybe I'll look into him. But my understanding, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I don't know. I'm guessing from the little snippet I've seen that E. Michael Jones believes Vatican II is legitimate, believes that Bergoglio is the Pope. And if that's the case, then E. Michael Jones is a moron, all right? So no, not gonna have a conversation with him. I don't care if he does a lot of good, that's fine. So does Anne Barnhart. I would have a conversation with Anne Barnhart purely because I've seen her behave in a very logical manner throughout, except when it comes to sedeprivationism. And she has not addressed the issue, she has not addressed the legal argument, she has not addressed the canon law, which is very unlike her. So that interests me because I believe that there is a genuine person there who is just refusing to look at the issue, and if had to be forced to look at it a little bit, or if a logical argument was presented in front of her, she may well come to see the truth. E. Michael Jones seems to me is certainly old enough to know about Vatican II and all that stuff. So if he is a supporter of Bergoglio, I don't understand why. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's not a supporter of Bergoglio. Maybe he's confused like Anne is or whatever. But, frankly, if you're already supposedly Catholic and you don't reject Vatican II in its totality, as far as I'm concerned, you're not really Catholic. All right? You're either ignorant, deceived, or intentionally trying to deceive others. So you're one of those three. So not particularly interested unless, you're going to come and discuss that topic. If you're going to try and argue logically, correctly, there is a way to argue. We're not here to debate and just make noise. No. If you're going to argue with me on the facts, if you're going to present your syllogism, and if you're going to respond to my syllogisms in order, and I get to go first, I get to tell you this is the thing I'm saying, and you're going to address my points before you say anything, right? If you're going to be willing to do that and do it correctly and do it honestly, yeah, I'm probably happy to talk with you. If you're not going to do that, you're going to be a Spergatron or try to hijack the conversation or try and tell me, the Catholics are wrong. I don't care. I don't care. If you're going to try and leave a comment here about how the Catholic Church is so corrupt, fuck off. Don't bother. You'll just get banned. I am not interested in listening to your nonsense. You want to talk your nonsense? Go do your videos, all right? I'm here to tell you guys what I've understood, what I know, what is true, and I'll share it with you, and hopefully you'll share it with others. And there is a strategy. That'll be the next video. If I have time, I'm going to put up another video later today about the whole strategy of what we're doing here, because I need to explain it a bit, because again, sometimes I forget what people don't know, what don't understand. You know, I skip some steps that to me are obvious, but not obvious to a lot of other people. So that's my fault. It's one of the things that happens, unfortunately, when you have got a slightly higher IQ than normal, or a lot higher than normal, whichever the case may be. But you guys are pretty decent. The guys that are hanging around my channel are pretty cool. They seem to get it. There's a lot of really quite intelligent comments, and there's a lot of guys who are testing the waters and saying, do you mean that, you know, they don't know? And those guys are okay. I don't mind those guys. You know, try not to ask completely retarded questions. Maybe look at a bit of the videos before. Always video number one. Video number one explains the situation of the church very clearly in like 10 minutes. So if you don't know, if you're new to the channel, video number one, that's your go-to about the Catholic stuff. And I am going to do another video about our strategy and what your job is, what our duty is as Catholics, and so on. Okay? But that's it. That's pretty much all I'm ever going to say on J Dyer. He's a moron. He's not worth my time. There is no need to discuss anything. He's an intellectual pygmy, and he is dishonest. And he's an Omega. So, you know, good luck to him. I hope he, you know, gets an IQ boost or something and figures it out. But yeah, he's an irrelevant person as far as I'm concerned, and as far as pretty much the rest of the world is concerned too. Catholicism is where it's gonna come. That's where the rising tide will be, and I'll explain that in the next video I make about the strategy and so on. All right, that's my hate on hate video, I guess. I don't know. There, you've got enough internet drama now, and I expect there's going to be a flood of gammas committing gammacide very soon on my channel. Have a good weekend.